Hey, Pastor Scott here with a Mother's Day word of encouragement. In the book of Acts, we read about Lystra. It's a small country town that was kind of like a frontier outpost of the Roman Empire. Kind of like the wild, wild west. The Lystrians are generally uneducated and gullible. Paul plants a church here. Well, in this small country town, there is a mama, and she is a Jewish believer. She's married to a Greek unbeliever, and they have a son. And in the midst of this ignorant and unbelieving culture, she poured into her son the truth of the one true living God. And even though he had pagan and unbelieving friends, and he went to a school that taught him about multiple gods, she continued to faithfully pour into him the stories of his faithful ancestors. Stories about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Stories of a faithful God who heard the cry of affliction of his children in the house of bondage in Egypt. Of a God who sends a murderer who's on the run named Moses to go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh, "Let my people go." She would tell him of God who parts red seas and provides daily sustenance to his people in the middle of the desert for 40 years. She would tell him of a God who promised and provided the promised land and faithfully led his children there. She would tell him stories of a great king named David who sinned but confessed that sin and was pardoned by God. Her mama's faith became his faith, and he grew into a man. And later, when Paul traveled back through Lystra, the people and the believers there spoke very well of him, and Paul took him along with him on his evangelistic journey across the Mediterranean rim, spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. Paul would later call Timothy his spiritual son, and Paul poured into him, and he became a pastor. So mamas, keep pouring into your kids the good news of Jesus Christ. Keep telling them the stories of the faith. Keep living out a life that becomes the gospel in front of them. And regardless how the world looks to you right now, you keep the faith. God is at work. You're making a difference. And be encouraged. Oh, and happy Mother's Day.